I'm Matt. I'm here today to talk about the Teenage Engineering OPZ, which is a fully portable sequencer, synthesizer and sampler. The OPZ has 16 tracks capable of sequencing music, effects, Dmx lighting and visuals, making it a unique performance tool. It's a standalone instrument with an intuitive workflow, making it perfect if you're on the go or in the studio. The 4 dials on the OPZ correspond to different parameters depending on which mode you're in. So with the synth engine, you have macro 1, macro 2, filter and cutoff. And this sweeps between low pass and high pass. When you hit a central point on the knob, the light goes green. When it's all the way down to the bottom of the parameter, it goes blank. And then when you get to the top of the parameter, it flashes twice. You can access additional functionality for the jog dials by pressing the shift key here. So after the first menu, you have the green LEDs, which are an envelope. And then you have the yellow LEDs, which are the mixer page. So the first two send out the sounds to effects send 1 and effects send 2, which are reverb and delay. And you have volume control and pan. So these dials give you really smooth and precise control over these parameters. There's also a tape track, which adds instantaneous looping effects. An audio buffer grabs the audio from your sequence and allows you to manipulate it in real time, which gives you some really unique sounds that you can throw into a performance or a song. The OPZ has a USB-C connection on the side, which is used to charge the battery. The battery lasts for 6 hours. The USB-C connection can also be used for MIDI and data transfer. If you open up the back of OPZ, there's an expansion slot, which is used for expansion modules. In here right now, we've got the OpLab module, which connects to 5-pin MIDI, CV, and it also connects to pocket operators for sync. The OPZ also has Bluetooth, which allows you to connect to the OPZ app. The OPZ app gives you additional controls, and it also hosts the visual sequences, Photomatic and Motion. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how to sequence on the OPZ. You've got 16 tracks in total, but the first 8 are more based with instruments. You select these by pressing this track button here, and then you can navigate through and pick them. And on each one, it flashes the sample pack you're using and the preset. So let's pick this one. And now these keys turn into a keyboard. And they split the samples across them. But if we switch to the synth sounds, we have the keyboard there. So if we wanted to program in a beat, we select a sound and the OPZ remembers it. Then we add it to the grid and use the transport controls here to start the sequence. We can delete steps by pressing them again and then they're removed. Then we can put them back in. And we can also add other samples with the drum tracks. Now we're going to add some melodic elements to our sequence. So I'm going to select the chord track by holding the track button and pressing chords. And then I'm going to start the sequencer. And instead of putting the notes onto the timeline, I'm going to hold record and I'm going to play the notes in. So now we're going to add some more percussive elements. I'm going to use the track button again and select the percussion track and start the sequencer. Now, instead of putting this onto the timeline, I'm going to hold record, or first I'm going to find a sound. Maybe a different sample pack. And I'm going to free record this in. So I just hold record button here. And it plays in unquantized. Now if I want to tighten this up to the beat, just hold the track button and the dials now become controls for the track. the yellow dial becomes the quantize. So as I turn it, it locks the hi-hat more into beat. Now I'm going to show you some extra sequencing features that the OPZ has. So we're going to select the sample track here, pick a sound, and we're going to add this to the sequence. And we're going to do something called parameter locking. So if I hold the step and change a parameter, you can now hear, if I wind these down a little bit, you can now hear that the pitch of this step changes. And that locks the parameter in place. For this last part on sequencing, I'm going to talk about step components. Step components add variation to your sequence with the press of a few buttons. For this, I've started with a new pattern. Okay, so I'm going to select the snare track, select another snare, and then I'm going to create like a fill at the end. Okay, so I don't want that to play every single time. So instead, I'm going to use a step component so that it plays every other time. To do this, you hold Shift, select the steps, and then select the trigger spark here. So at the moment, one is lit, which means that it's ignored on the first cycle, and the second one's flashing, so it flashes on the second. But you can extend this to play on every third, every fourth, and then variations of each of those. Always with the flashing one being the one where it triggers. Okay, so now I'm going to add some hi-hats. There's not much dynamic movement in the hi-hats, so we're going to use step components to add this in. So if I hold the track button, and then select the hi-hats, you can see all the steps here, and then I'm going to hold Shift, and select each of the odd ones here, and then use the velocity component here. And you'll already notice a drop in volume, but I can increase this so you get a bit of movement. Equally, you can go the other way and increase the volume, or gate them all together. But I think I'll stick with 4. Step components can be added together, so I'm going to add a few more to the sequence. I'm going to use the random one to add in some chaos. And the ramp up increases the pitch. So immediately we've gone from 16th hi-hat hits to something that's a little different. You can also sample external sounds into the OPZ, either using the built-in mic, USB audio, or through the headphone port using a headset mic. For this, we're going to record a simple xylophone through the built-in mic. So now all we need to do is hold record and play a note. Okay, let's play that back. We can shift the pitch of it by pressing the plus and minus buttons. So we can tune it with the keyboard. So I'm pressing A here, and we have a test tone when we press the track button. So that matches that. We can also use the rotary encoders here to trim the sample. There was quite a lot of empty space at the beginning of that. But this way we can set a start and end point. And for continuous sounds, we can also set a looping point as well. So to come out of sampler mode, just press stop, and we're back to regular operation of the OPZ. So we could program in some chords. And it works with the sequencer. So now that you've got a sample into the OPZ, you can use it with the sequencer, with the effects, and with all the other parts of the OPZ that you could use the normal sound packs with. The OPZ app adds another visual dimension to the OPZ. It adds visual feedback as well as photo sequencing and motion sequencing. You can control the app from the OPZ by holding the screen button at the top and scrolling through with the dials. The OPZ view gives an overview of the track that we're working with. In this case, we have kick selected, and we can see all the parameters for the kick track. I can also change parameters from the app using the touchpad, and I can select different parameters to adjust. The next menu along is the configurator, which gives you access to all of your sample packs and synthesis engines. We then have Photomatic, which is a photo sequencer. In Photomatic, you have 10 different roles, each with 24 pictures that can be assigned to the keys. They can also be sequenced to the music. You can adjust hue, saturation, brightness and contrast from the dials. There are also punch-in effects that you can add by holding Shift. Send the output of Photomatic through an HDMI adapter to an external screen or projector. As well as Photomatic, the app also has Motion. Motion generates images that interact with your music. You can sequence visual effects and scene changes from the keyboard. So as well as these features, you also have device information, which tells you the serial number and firmware that you're running on the OPZ. There's a MIDI setup page, which allows you to configure the MIDI settings of the OPZ. And there's also a guide which links you directly to the instruction manual. So we've covered most of the basic features on the OPZ today. As well as sound and visuals, you can also add Dmx Lighting to your setup, giving you a full performance rig in a portable, small sequencer. For more information on teenage engineering products or the OPZ, head over to Gear4music's website.